Hola, hello, bonjour, iniche, I can do too. um, I hope that you guys are caught up and that you're doing what you need to be doing. If you're watching this, I'm guessing that you're pretty far ahead as long as you're not watching it in March. Um, so the last 2 days, you guys have gone through 2 days of, I'm looking on the left here. Basically, in the first 10 slides or so, it's showing you some context for why it is that Europeans now go into all these other countries and start to take them over, including the United States, by the way, because the Industrial Revolution has not just come to Europe. It's moved across the sea as the cities all overcrowded in Europe. They moved to the United States. So we have massive amounts of immigrants coming from Europe that are basically populating the cities in the same way that you did on your picture. So when that happens and the cities in the East Coast in the US get really crowded, they start to move west. They look for land and they go out for the gold rush and they're moving across with these railways, trading back and forth, and they're taking up the land that is there for the government of the country, Native American land, land that belonged to Mexico, Spain, and so that, and even the French end up selling their land to the U.S. So there's a lot of ways that we get more territory, but it's important to understand why all this happens. And you can't just really plunge into, oh, let's study imperialism now and why the Europeans go into Africa without understanding that slavery has been going on for 400 years. So that's like, 8 generations of people. Back then, even shorter because life expectancy was short. So people already had, especially Europeans, had these ideas of their own sort of sense of, superiority, whether it's economic or racial or political. So anyway, that's just to give you some context. And then we talked about, okay, now this is what Africa looks like when the British and the French go in to kind of carve it up. This is Africa, but instead of seeing all the different tribes, you just see the countries because they've planted their flags in these places to assert their control over it. Then you looked, the second day, you looked at the reasons why they're taking over. Now look at the left: exploratory, economic. Okay, you were supposed to write using what you read in the book. I need to see your learning, you guys. So I need to see your responses. You can be creative about them, but write well. Like, this is what I see at the end of a Pear Deck. I just see it look like this. So I see your questions when you're responding to the slides. Make sure that you are writing, really well, so that you're clear about what you're saying. Useful sentences. Give me examples. It doesn't need to go very long, but at least just show me that you read and you understood what you read. Okay. So after you did that, then you got to where it said end day 2. And I had you end with the drawings. You were drawing different diagrams for what all these meant. Okay. These are the 5 reasons why countries take over other countries. And there's usually not just one reason. Usually there's multiple reasons. So now what you're going to do, look in the left. I'm going to just kind of preview the whole rest of the slide. You probably already looked at it. They're just basically tons of documents that show you about what was happening at the time. They're people that drew drawings back then, right? They didn't have photographers. They had people who were sketching, or maybe it was the day after and they were sketching like, what happened. This is a fort, a Vietnamese fort that's being taken over by the French, a citadel. You may have to look up some words, okay, if you don't know what they mean. But this is slide I, and there's a total of like 23 slides. So in class, what I would do is I'd have all these pictures and I'd have them all around the room, and we'd go around with a chart and you would look at all of them and you'd give, like, some of them have like writing on the top and a picture. So you have to really, like this one, when you get to this picture, you're going to want to look at it really carefully because there's writing on here and you might have to look some things up. The first word, the heathen Chinese, right? Go to the dictionary, look up heathen. Heathen is like brutal, savage. So, it's like kind of like an animal. It's how you would describe an animal in a way. So there, you'll see a lot of references, especially in some of the cartoons. This is satire. There's a lot of satire that is written that is actually more entertainment. So people are reading this poem and they're looking at this picture and they're like, oh, haha, that's funny. But what you see is really a lot darker, because you're seeing, the racism that comes out of a lot of these. But it's not just about racism. It's about control. These are all of the stereotypes of the countries or the mascots. The mascot for the United States is Uncle Sam. I don't know if you've heard about him, but he's basically the symbol for the U.S. And I'm not even sure of the historical details of that. But Uncle Sam usually has red and white striped pants on. He's got a long white beard. And then you have the British, who they were big safari hunters. They would go into East Africa and they loved the elephants. They hunt elephants and lions, mostly as trophies. So they'd come home with like the tusks and the feet were stumps, stools. I've actually seen people who have these elephant feet stools. I'm not a fan of that. I think it's disturbing, but that's what the British did. And they were very big game hunters. And roosters for the French are roosters. You wouldn't necessarily know this, but you would maybe recognize, okay, these are symbols of some, people who are, and you have to read the poem also to understand it. You don't have to read the whole thing or understand the whole thing, but they're wanting them to, Russia making them converts, power sharing. So there's some things here that are showing, and the picture of the Chinese man is also very stereotyped, meaning it's a caricature. Like when you go to the zoo and you get your picture taken by or they draw a picture of you, and it's usually like a caricature. A caricature is like overly simplified with exaggerated features that are trying to kind of in a way make fun of you. So you see that definitely with when anybody was drawing Asian people or Africans. In some of the pictures, they look literally like monkeys. I mean, they're really disturbing. They're not human forms. So anyway, you will see that and just recognize that, yes, that is showing that if they're drawing them as kind of subhuman, then there is some overt racism that is going on there. So this is one example of a slide, but there's a lot of them. And what you're going to do now, I would also recommend that you take the scissors and you literally cut to the page so you're looking at it like this. This is the document that you're going to be doing. Okay. Now, the first thing you wanted to do is you have to think back to your drawings that you did up above. Remember, I said draw a picture that makes you think of something. And you may not want to use the one that you drew, but you want to try to put it right here. And this is how you're going to do it. I used a bag of money for economic. I used a light bulb because ideas that people have, even though they were ideas of superiority, right? Those are really important to understand. But let me just give you an example. If you're looking for a political symbol, let's say my symbol was a star or a flag. You're going to go to insert, pay attention here if you were starting to sleep, insert, where's insert? Image, sorry. Insert image, search the web, and I like to use clip art. When I use, clip art makes it kind of generic like this. I didn't just put in flag because then I get like all the flags of the whole world, and you want to try to keep it generic. This is not about one country. So don't use like the British flag. Don't use the US flag because this is about all these European countries coming in. Same with when you get to, I don't know, even money. I shouldn't use the dollar sign, but I couldn't find a money bag without a dollar sign, but I could have looked harder. So anyway, I'm going to use this orange flag. You could also do a star, but I'm going to pick that orange flag. That's going to be my symbol for my political. And again, you need to read all of these and understand what each one is. Okay, by the time you finish this, you will understand them because you're going to constantly be looking up here to try to figure out, okay, which one of these 5 reasons right here is this picture representing? Okay, so that's where you're going to do that down here. I did an example on A, but let me just show you. This is what you have to do. So if you look at you have to, number one, come up with a title for this. Look down here at the caption and just say cartoon of Chinese and European. Okay, you can use that as a title. I used the diamond mine as my example here, but you also then, the second thing you want to do is write down every single thing that you see in the document, everything. So you want to have, like, in this first section here, if I were doing this one, this is slide H, I would be down here. I would say, mascots of countries pairing up a Chinese man. I would say the Chinese man is caricatured. I don't even know how to spell that really well, meaning stereotyped and exaggerated. That's what that means. I would also look, this is a poem, so I want to look for things that are going to help me say, okay, look, there's a lot of things about religion in here, Christians and Muslims, and kind of there it might be some other notions. So I'm looking at religious words. I'm looking at the word that's repeated, heathen, a lot, just kind of like, primitive, savage. Now I have to go up after you have like 5 bullet points. Remember, you're trying to show me that you're really studying these. And you want to come up with a title. So my title would probably be cartoon of, it's called The Partition of China. That's the name of the poem. Partition of China poem. Okay, so it's about how they're going to take up China. They all want to take China and they're going to carve it up. And that's what this is representing. So now the second thing I need to do is I need to decide which symbols correspond to the picture. So I'm going to look up here and I'm going to say, okay, I think that this is happening, right? Europeans are going to try to civilize the Chinese. So I'm going to use my light bulb. I also think that this is happening. There's competition. The European countries are competing with each other. And I also saw some religion stuff in here. So I might want to use my religious symbol. But what I'm going to do is just now watch what I'm doing here. I'm going to copy my flag, just Command C, and I'm going to put it in the middle. And I'm going to make it really, really small. And I also thought it was this. So I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to say it's ideological. So I put that in. I'm going to make it really, really small. And then I'm also maybe going to take, and look, these pictures right here. If I click wrap, it means, oh, no. Never mind. You do not want to do that. It means you can move them around, but that's going to mess you up on a chart. Don't do that. You can just go to the next line and then add your little religion icon there. You can make it fit. And then over here, now this is the hardest part. On the third column, you have to explain why you picked those. So you're going to say the flag. So political. It's political because countries are competing. Notice I don't have full sentences. It is ideological. I'm not even writing out full words because I see racism depicted. And I think it's religious because in the poem, I saw a lot of religious words. Something like that. So you guys need to basically explain why, and that's what you're going to do for each one of these. Okay, I hope I didn't go too long. I was just trying to give you detail. Please rewind this if you're confused about how to do this, and text me the second you have any questions. You're going to spend 2 days on this. So break it up and make sure you're budgeting your time well.